Okay everyone, in this short tutorial I'm going to cover what we did in class on Thursday, expanding this additive synthesizer to add a sequencer and to add an envelope so that we can make the sound not play all the time. So if we start here with this, what we started yesterday, I'm just going to move all this down a little bit so that I can make room above the keyboard for a step sequencer. So, as I talked about in class, the first thing we'll need to make the step sequencer is a metronome that's working. So let me get a metronome going here. Metro object, I'll do a 500, which again, we talked about this. This basically means that the tempo equals 120 because there are 2 beats per second. And connected to this metro are a couple of new objects that we haven't used. The first one is counter, and of course what counter is going to do is count, but I'm going to set it a range of the lowest number of 1 and the highest number of 8. So connecting these together like this, we're now going to get a counter that's going to count from 1 to 8. Pretty simple. So the next thing we want to do is create what's called an array. So if I make a comment here, array, comment. An array is a list of numbers or letters or whatever values that are kind of played in an order or listed in order or have some sort of ordering to them. So what we're going to do now is use an object called select, S-E-L. You can also write the whole word select. It's the same thing as S-C-L. So I'm going to use select S-E-L and then type in 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I have an object that's going to output all 8 numbers via their outputs. So if I mouse over the first output, again, if the number coming out of the counter matches 1, then it's going to bang out this outlet. If it matches 2, it's going to bang out this outlet, etc. So if I connect this here now and add some bangs onto here, you will see the counter counting. Or basically, sorry, not the counter, the select choosing the individual outputs. Now the last outlet can be very useful. It's used if the numbers don't match. So if, for instance, a 9 were to come out of the counter, then the last output would bang because it's saying none of the numbers in the select object match 9. Therefore, I'm sending it to the last outlet. It can be really useful for various things. Maybe you want something specific to happen if the values coming out of whatever it is don't match the values you want to use. So you want to maybe turn something off when a value exceeds a limit, etc. There's many reasons why you would use it. So great, now we have these bangs coming out of here, and the next thing we need to do is make them do something, right? So remember, the K slider down here is actually looking for an input value. It's looking for a keyboard value, a note. So if I make a message and I type 60 and a message that says 67 and I connect these, you'll see that when I push the button 60, it's going to play the middle C button, which is what 60 is. 67 will play a perfect fifth above. So I can now connect these to the individual boxes like this, and it's going to play whatever sequence I create. So let's just add more of these on here. And then I will change up what number is in the box to make a note sequence. So click down here, shift click to connect to all of these. Right now, obviously, it's alternating notes, but we're going to change that. 68, 67 again, maybe 63. I love minor keys, so I'm kind of playing with a minor scale right now. 71, 72, and then we'll do 48, maybe. We'll see how that sounds. So if I lock this down now and turn it on, I should hear this MIDI sequence as it plays. Oh, let's check the outputs here. Oh, maybe I just have my speakers off. And there we have it. So my sequence is working properly. I can consolidate this down a little bit. The next thing I want to do is give me some control over the metronome. So, what I'm going to do is actually use a slider. I'm going to use a slider here. And again, I could use a couple message boxes, whatever I want. And I'm going to connect it here. So remember, that's now going to replace the 500. Now, one of the problems is, of course, this slider's value is only from 0 to 127. So I want to change that with the inspector. Command I, and then I go down here to the range, and let's set this to 1000. Don't need a float output. We'll just have a value of 1000. So now I can change the tempo pretty easily. And let's do another thing is add an integer box so I can see what I'm actually putting in there. Otherwise, I can't really see it. So everything's working properly. Sounds kind of interesting. Oop. So, great. So the next thing we're going to tackle, of course, is the problem that these notes are always sounding, right? We're hearing this constantly, and we want to cut the notes off with what's called an envelope. So the envelope is going to control the pitch or the value of the volume input that's coming in, or the gain input. So I want to intercept all of these cables here with a couple of things to stop the signal from constantly playing. So I'm going to we'll start with an object called function. And function is going to make this nice box here. And what the function is looking for, well, it has several values. First of all, along the horizontal, this is a time domain here. I think it's set to 500 milliseconds. It's set to 1000. So see how it says time domain or high domain value X is 1000. That means it's 1 second long. And then the horizontal steps is 100. I think it's, no, I'm sorry, high-low range, display range. The Y value, there it is 0 to 1. That's what I was expecting. So we're going to now lock this down and make an envelope. I'm going to start at 0 in the corner. I'm going to have a quick attack time, sustain level, and then return to 0. So right now, this envelope is about 500 milliseconds long, because remember, the whole time domain is 1000, and I'm using about half of it. So the next thing we talked about in class was the idea of using something called send and receive, right? So I could use two objects, one called send, and I'm going to call this metronome, or let's call it tempo, okay? And then receive R tempo. And what I can do is now connect this straight to the metronome, right, like this. And all of the metronome's bangs now are going to come out via the receive tempo. And again, this is entirely about a unique name. Because it says tempo here, this could say anything. It could say cats, dogs, whatever, rope. You pick the word. As long as it matches the receive, it will always output. So you can see I'm receiving the tempo value without a cable, which can be really nice especially if you're using the tempo for all kinds of things. So we'll take this tempo and drag it all the way down here to the envelope and connect it, because the envelope needs to be triggered every time a note is sounded. So I'm going to grab all of this and scoot it down even more, and we're going to intercept all of these cables. Now I'm holding down Option to grab all these cables. But what I'm going to do first is multiply the audio and then start with an initial value of 0. So what this means, of course, when I connect all the cables to here, the volume will be at 0 automatically, because if we multiply a signal by 0, we get 0. And I'm going to grab all these cables and move them here, and then connect this here. So obviously I've created a stopgap where the volume is going to be at nothing unless the envelope triggers. Okay? So the last thing I need to do to make this work is, of course, connect these together, but I also need a line tilde object that's going to convert all the data points on my envelope into a line that I can hear. So once I connect this here, it should start making sound. Now it's muted right now. So let's hear what it sounds like. Oop, what happened here? Oh, there it is. So right now, let's get the tempo up higher. You can hear now that the notes, let's make it even a little shorter. Okay, so the envelope is totally working. You know, I can make this envelope shaped in many ways. Whatever I want to do with it. But it is working properly. So that's really it. That's all we're doing. The idea next is to, have multiple chords. How could we do something like that? And let me also just add reverb and delay to make this sound better. So if I go to my files here, grab the delay. Just drop it here for now. And grab the reverb. Okay, so if I take these down here, and run cables there. So after the envelope, after the gain slider, well, first of all, I'm going to make some additional gain sliders here that we did in class. And I'm going to make 2 of these, right, to make it stereo. And then output here and here. So we're hearing reverb now. Now if I wanted to, I could even take the reverb signal and run the reverb signal into the delay. So anyways, that's it. That's the general idea of what we're doing. Another bit of information. There is a send and receive for audio signals, which is really useful. You can see all these cables are quite a mess. So what I can do is use send tilde and then type in like output 1 or left, right? And then have a receive tilde output left, and this will allow me to send a signal out and receive a signal somewhere else without a cable. And it can be really useful too, obviously, to clean up all this. Like, for instance, out of the gain here, the raw data, I could say send raw signal. Connect this here, and then have a receive raw signal up here on the reverb and delay. Anyways, that's it.